On a quiet Tuesday night in Doha, the city's glittering skyline shimmered under the desert stars, unaware of the chaos about to unfold. Suddenly, a series of powerful explosions ripped through the heart of the city's diplomatic quarter, shattering the calm and sending shockwaves across the capital. Just after 9 p.m., a luxury hotel complex, famous for hosting high-stakes negotiations and international delegations, became the epicenter of chaos and destruction. Sirens wailed through the night as thick plumes of smoke rose above a city long regarded as a safe haven for diplomacy and peace talks. The target was clear. Senior Hamas leaders gathered in Doha for what many believed could be the final round of ceasefire negotiations, talks that had raised hopes for an end to months of violence. This was no accident. It was a calculated, precise military strike, executed with chilling efficiency and intent. Within hours, the attack was attributed to the Israeli military, who carried it out with a level of precision that left little doubt about their capabilities and resolve. Intelligence sources confirmed it was an airstrike, likely involving advanced fighter jets or drones, guided by real-time surveillance and targeting data. By striking Hamas leadership on Qatari soil, Israel sent a clear and unmistakable message, not just to Hamas, but to the entire region. Nowhere is off limits, and no sanctuary is guaranteed. But this was more than a message to Hamas. It was a direct challenge to Qatar's sovereignty, a bold move that stunned the Gulf's security establishment and left Qatari leaders scrambling to respond. The peace talks, painstakingly brokered by Qatar, Egypt, and the United States over weeks of tense negotiations, were obliterated in an instant. Hopes for a breakthrough dashed amid the rubble. The world watched in disbelief as a key U.S. ally was attacked in its own capital, raising urgent questions about the future of American influence and alliances in the region. How could this happen in Doha, a city known for its neutrality and diplomacy? What did it mean for the region's already fragile balance of power and for the millions living in its shadow? As the dust settled, urgent questions about regional stability, the future of the war, and the reliability of American security guarantees dominated conversations from Washington to Riyadh. The Doha strike wasn't just an attack, it marked a turning point for the Middle East, one that would reshape alliances, redraw red lines, and echo across the region for years to come. In the immediate aftermath of the explosion, Qatari authorities scrambled to secure the devastated hotel, their faces etched with shock and urgency as they searched desperately for survivors. The scene was chaotic, sirens blaring, dust hanging in the air, and the relentless search for any sign of life beneath the rubble. The casualties were a grim testament to the attack's brutality. Among the dead and wounded were mid-level Hamas aides, Qatari security personnel, and hotel staff, ordinary people who had become innocent bystanders to a war that had suddenly, violently arrived in Doha. The forensic teams worked through the night, piecing together evidence and identifying victims. Meanwhile, senior Hamas leaders survived, shielded in a fortified section of the hotel. Their escape fueled speculation about the true intent behind the strike. Was it a failed assassination or a warning? Rumors swirled, deepening the sense of unease. The survival of these leaders did nothing to calm the outrage. Instead, it hardened positions on all sides as anger and suspicion spread rapidly through the city. The public's grief quickly turned to fury. Qatar's government responded with fury, condemning the attack as a flagrant violation of its sovereignty and a breach of international law. Officials demanded answers and accountability, their statements broadcast across the region. In a dramatic move, the ambassador was recalled from Tel Aviv, signaling a sharp and immediate diplomatic rift between Qatar and Israel. The message was clear. Relations had reached a breaking point. On Doha's streets, anger boiled over, not just at Israel, but at the sense of betrayal by the international community. Protesters demanded justice, their voices echoing through the city as they called for solidarity and action. The attack shattered Qatar's delicate balancing act between hosting political groups and maintaining crucial Western alliances. The government now faced mounting pressure both at home and abroad as the world watched closely. Now, the focus shifted to how such a devastating strike could happen undetected, and what it meant for the security of every Gulf nation. Questions about intelligence failures and future threats dominated the conversation. The diplomatic fallout was only beginning. with regional leaders and analysts warning that the repercussions of this attack would be felt for months, if not years, to come. The shockwaves from Doha's strike reverberated across the Gulf. In capitals from Riyadh to Abu Dhabi, alarm replaced years of careful diplomacy. If Doha could be hit, nowhere was safe. Qatar's emir called for an emergency summit of the Gulf Cooperation Council and Arab League, an urgent bid for a unified Arab response. Neighboring states quickly agreed, recognizing the gravity of the moment. For decades, Gulf security focused on Iran. Now, Israel's reach forced a dramatic reassessment. The strike exposed vulnerabilities in the U.S. security umbrella, especially with Al Udeid air base so close by. Did the U.S. know? Did it fail to act? Either answer rattled America's partners. The region's entire security architecture was suddenly in question. The summit would determine the next steps in a rapidly shifting landscape. The Doha strike shattered the illusion of a stable, cooperative Middle East. The Abraham Accords, once a symbol of hope, now seemed fragile. Israel's willingness to strike in an Arab capital during peace talks proved security trumped diplomacy. For the UAE and Bahrain, the backlash was immediate, domestically and regionally. The psychological impact was profound. The Gulf was no longer insulated from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Trust in Israel and in the U.S. as a security guarantor plummeted. The presence of American bases was supposed to deter attacks. That illusion was gone. Calls grew for Gulf states to diversify alliances, looking to China or Russia for security. The Doha strike may mark the moment the Gulf began hedging its bets against American protection. The region's future alliances were suddenly up for grabs. The September 9th strike was a high-stakes gamble. Israel targeted top Hamas leaders in Doha, prioritizing immediate elimination over diplomatic channels. The attack killed several operatives and Qatari personnel, but missed its main targets. Hamas's leadership, feeling betrayed, vowed to abandon negotiations. The diplomatic backlash was swift. Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, and even Israel's new Gulf partners condemned the strike. Israel found itself isolated, its actions raising questions about international law and the sanctity of diplomatic venues. Legal experts debated whether the strike was an act of war against Qatar. The operation set a dangerous precedent. Diplomatic safe havens were no longer off-limits. The diplomatic tremors would reshape the region's unwritten rules for years to come. Qatar's call for an emergency summit was met with resounding support across the Arab world. Saudi Arabia led the chorus, condemning the violation of a sister state's sovereignty. The summit became a rallying point for collective anger and strategic recalibration. In Jordan and Egypt, leaders faced public outrage and calls to sever ties with Israel. The attack shattered assumptions that conflicts could be contained. Arab leaders now feared a new era of unpredictable cross-border strikes. The Arab League, often criticized as ineffective, now faced a defining test. The region's response could reshape Middle Eastern geopolitics for a generation. For the United States, the Doha strike was a diplomatic disaster, sending shockwaves through embassies and foreign ministries across the region. Washington scrambled to manage the crisis, caught in a delicate balancing act between its long-standing alliance with Israel and its vital Gulf partners, both of whom demanded immediate attention and reassurance. Secretary Blinken worked the phones tirelessly, urging restraint from all sides, seeking answers, and trying to prevent the situation from spiraling further out of control. The official U.S. statement tried to balance concern for regional sovereignty with unwavering support for Israel, a message that ultimately pleased no one and left allies and adversaries alike questioning America's intentions. Gulf allies openly questioned America's reliability as a security guarantor, expressing doubts about Washington's commitment to their safety and stability. The strike, occurring in a city that hosts U.S. Central Command, was a major embarrassment for American leadership, highlighting vulnerabilities in its regional posture. The perception of American weakness quickly fueled calls among Gulf states for new security partnerships, with China and Russia eager to step in and fill the void left by U.S. indecision. The White House dispatched senior envoys to the region, hoping to calm tensions, but Gulf leaders demanded concrete action and real guarantees, not just diplomatic reassurances or carefully worded statements. Behind closed doors, U.S. frustration with Israel was intense, as officials debated how to maintain credibility without alienating a key ally. The strike undermined months of painstaking U.S.-led diplomacy, put American assets and personnel at risk, and threatened to unravel fragile regional alliances. Managing the U.S.-Israel relationship had never been more complicated or consequential, as every decision now carried the weight of global repercussions and the future of American influence in the Middle East. While leaders debated, the people of Gaza paid the price. The Doha strike destroyed hopes for a ceasefire and a hostage prisoner exchange. With talks dead, the war in Gaza was set to intensify, worsening an already catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Aid organizations faced even greater obstacles. Civilians braced for more violence. The fate of Israeli hostages grew more uncertain as Hamas hardened its stance. Extremists on both sides felt vindicated. Moderates were sidelined. The attack empowered radicals, making peace seem more distant than ever. The shadow of war over Gaza only deepened. As the dust settled, the Middle East stood at a crossroads. Would Qatar expel Hamas or double down as mediator? The region watched closely. The emergency summit would reveal whether the Abraham Accords could survive this test. The U.S. faced a choice: pressure Israel or risk losing credibility with Arab partners. The Doha strike exposed the fragility of alliances and lowered the threshold for conflict. Are sovereign borders and diplomatic venues still sacred? The answer will shape the region's future. The world is watching. What path will the Middle East choose next?